Hello, Viesturs Sosars. You are the co-founder of TechHub Riga. TechHub Riga is a franchise of TechHub London, and we just recently announced that they were closing the door. And TechHub London was one of the cornerstone of the Silicon Roundabout in London. So it's very famous. They were supported by TechCrunch. But the important information is that the other TechHubs in Europe and to mention the one from Riga, are still operating. You still have project. And maybe first I let you introduce TechHub Riga and yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, first of all. And yeah, indeed, let's pick up what you said. It is emotionally very sad news for everyone. And that echoes not, London startup ecosystem through the London startup ecosystem, but also other places, including Latvia and Riga. So how TechHub Riga started? We started back in early 2012. So it's about 8 and a bit years ago. And we were directly inspired by the way TechHub London was positioning themselves as the community co-working space for startups and tech people. And we just a bunch of local entrepreneurs here, traveling, commuting frequently to London and oftentimes staying at TechHub London, thought that we should repeat something similar. And then we asked the permission to use the brand as a franchise, and we were kindly given that permission. So that's how it started, more than 8 years ago.
You were one of the first co-working franchise in Europe, actually, to some extent.
Indeed. And also, speaking of Riga, we were pretty much the first community-based, not the walk-in type, but community-based co-working in entire country, entire city. Yeah.
So also one of the first in Latvia, or if not the first, because you explained there was a small one, but then you grew. So today you are running about 800 square meters. You have 100 members, but you are one of as we mentioned, the Silicon Roundabout in London, and you have that kind of impact on the Riga and Latvia level. That you were one of the stone on which the startup ecosystem in Latvia grew and started, isn't it?
Yes, it is a cause and effect thing, because on one hand, TechHub Riga started because we needed that crystallization point, right? That hub. On the other hand, the hub helped to foster, to grow the ecosystem faster. And we indeed, for 8 years, we're here, we do the co-working, we do events, and we also provide content ranging from startups, including the members, up to corporates and government.
Yeah. So what's the impact of this? Because you were closely connected with the London area, but you can live on a standalone now, and you still have project, because you mentioned that before the crisis, you were discussing, and you are still discussing with I guess the authority or the University of Latvia to move into a huge building of almost 9,000 square meters, and those are the plans you have so far. So can you elaborate on what's the plan, and or you are still looking the future now from your perspective?
Right. Okay. So I think again, speaking of plans, yes, we have that with occupying those 800 square meters, as you mentioned, in a bigger unit, the bigger building, which used to be one of the university buildings of University of Latvia. And in theory, we have room to expand. How exactly we're going to expand, well, let's see, because obviously we are not living in a world which is not affected by COVID, by pandemics. But if I would probably hypothesize, I'd probably try my idea what's different between, for example, Riga and London, or some other places which are more affected by pandemics. And that's an interesting speculation. Maybe we can think about that together, because luckily, and this was luck together with the really quick and efficient reaction of the government, we were, for now at least, let's see what the future brings, but we were spared all the peaking of COVID and everything. And it seems to me that in some places which are more affected by COVID, including UK and London, the entire pandemics created the wave of people sitting at home instead of going to co-working spaces. Whereas in less affected places than us, the somewhat interestingly opposite thing, not the opposite, but a different thing happened. Smaller teams which had own offices, because they meet just once or twice a week instead of every day, they were moving to co-workings from smaller own offices and not entirely and directly back to their bedrooms and living rooms, right? And in that sense, I think that is a different context.
Yeah. So yeah, what you mean is indeed, as far as the COVID and the crisis not too harsh and too spread, we already seen the effect of this understanding that flexible workspace and flexible models better fit actually the requirements and the needs of those smaller teams, and that to some extent you are already maybe in a future that we are not seeing coming yet in Western Europe, and that we could maybe it could build up trust about the future that we could see, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't know, of course, that the predictions of future are always wrong, so I would not try predicting it, but indeed it might get back to flexible workspace from your bedroom. And the co-working concept is revived again. But again, also in our case, we may unfortunately get to more restrictions, which also would affect the co-working. But so far, I would say the co-working is like a little bit, the members are shifting, right? The people and the teams, but so far the co-working in Riga is pretty much unaffected as far as concerns TechHub Riga.
Yeah. So to come back on your business model, and so something interesting you mentioned is also that based on the fact that Riga is a small town. I don't know how many inhabitants there is in Riga.
Riga, it's about 2/3 of a million. It's about 650.
So it's not a huge city, but it's good enough.
It's a mid-sized for your pain.
Yeah, but that indeed in such a city where co-working competition grew in the last years, you are in this market as well, so that you had to also diversify your revenues. That of course you live out of membership and meeting rooms, rental, and even hosting, but also you were also investing a lot in content production and training, due to the fact indeed that due to the reality of your markets, which is not big, it's necessary for a co-working like yours and an ecosystem like yours to go that direction.
Yes, there are two reasons. There are two primary reasons why we diversified away from only having a membership fees for the co-working into events, which currently that is probably the most suffering segment in post-pandemic, a pandemic world. Events is of course most suffering. But then we also very early on we decided to build within the NGO, and TechHub Riga is a not-for-profit organization. We decided to build a kind of a competence cluster in content from serial entrepreneurs, including me, from other domain experts, in marketing and fundraising and everything, because that is the way there are two reasons for that. First, that is a value proposition as a co-work, as a community co-working, that we add also for our members, oftentimes for free or very discounted ways. We can offer some content on top of just premises, right, with the coffee and all those things. And the second very important thing is that we also are able to afford like lower membership fees for our tenants and for startups, and they want to be entrepreneurs, oftentimes tech entrepreneurs, if we have other income from like selling some contents, our own content, through TechHub Riga. Yep.
And because again, you were in a situation where you were part of this big network of TechHub, of course, with the international fame that TechHub was bringing. Are you going to make it to keep it alive to some extent, but from Riga maybe, and still benefit from this traction that TechHub still has internationally likely? Or do you think you will maybe focus more on building this more narrative, Latvian based narrative that is connected with what you have been doing for 8 years now.
Yes. So I think we would love to keep the relationship and the brand alive and as much as possible. Let's see again what the future brings. It's not entirely in our hands now in brand wise, right? Yeah. But as of the business model, I think hopefully nothing much will change in a foreseeable future. I hope that still, the coworking will be alive. I hope that they still will put an effort in developing and offering the content also for third parties, which is critical for both earning the revenue and setting us apart. And I hope that the events will resume sooner or later, because, for example, the meetups haven't still resumed in Riga as well. The monthly meetups.
And are you moving to a more virtual production, for instance, like many players do as well, and installing equipment to record new stuff?
Yes. That's a great question, and I have to think how to tackle it. I would say that in terms of content, like the workshops and that stuff, most of this is relatively easily onlineizable. And we did it. We kept, running our workshops for corporates, for example, for some other governmental programs in a lockdown as well online. And it is okay. It needs a twist, but basically it's doable quite okay. When it comes to events, we don't have, that's what I can talk as a co-founder and as a board member, we don't have specific plans, of starting the online conferences or online meetups or something. But I'm not, in a longer perspective, I'm not excluding that, because again, we don't know how long it will take to us to get back to some normality.
And we didn't mention that you are an NGO. That's also something you said that was a blessing to some extent for you in the current time.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But you, as Temas event, you also host the biggest startup event in Latvia. I don't know if for the Baltics, but at least for Latvia. So we could figure out indeed that you could go, because everybody's speaking about hybridation nowadays, and that's it, online and physical. We don't know which one is the augmented part of the other. That's still the question mark for the moment. But indeed, we can also figure out, and of course you have the skills in-house to go more virtual, I assume.
Yes. No, but concerning the content and even to an extent the events, this is doable. Again, virtual co-working is, I think, oxymoron by definition, right? So it could have the event, events and meetups could have the element of exchanging the information and the knowledge and peer-to-peer interaction still. And I believe humankind will find ways how to do it efficiently. But as such, as the places, as the co-working, it's not on like virtualizable that is simply. And I think that one is of the sad reasons why the really reduction of the interest in plainly for co-working was critical to the fate of TechHub London.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks you so much for updating us about TechHub Riga, and all the best for the project. Hopefully everything will be better within a few weeks, and that your project and this move to this big building will
thank you happen. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot, and we look forward to see you maybe at the Coworking Europe conference in November in Vienna, if everything is good.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Viesturs.
Let's hope so.
Bye bye.